There's a major issue that's plaguing WWE's build to WrestleMania 41, and that is their inconsistency with storytelling. In the prior years of the Triple H era, storytelling was almost a given, especially going into a big show. However, in 2025, storytelling seems to be secondary, with what is becoming WWE's biggest issue, that being aura farming. To those who may not know, aura farming essentially is the idea that WWE can send high-profile talent out there to just stand, not really tell a story, maybe hit a few cute lines or two, and just get through a program. This is something we have seen very prevalent in the Bloodline storyline, especially over the last year. It's been a huge part of Roman Reigns' stories following his defeat at the hands of Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40, and it is quickly becoming my most hated thing in professional wrestling. The idea that WWE can just send talent like Roman, like Cody, like Solo Sikoa, like Jey Uso, all of whom are set to be in pretty high-profile matches at WrestleMania, just send them out there and let them do their thing with little catering to the story that they are trying to tell. Let's first look at Cody Rhodes and John Cena. A story that no one really thought would suffer from this. Both Cody Rhodes and John Cena are two of the best storytellers, not only in modern day wrestling, but of all time. John Cena is the GOAT for a reason. And despite the initial angle of Cena turning heel, attacking Cody at Elimination Chamber being so great, the issue arose when first Cena was not on TV following the attack, and then when he was for 2 subsequent weeks, he and Cody came out there, looked at each other, stared down in typical Triple H fashion, and simply walked away. It wasn't until their third face-to-face encounter where Cena and Cody got a little physical, and Cody seemed to get a little bit of a retribution against Cena. And while you can't say that this entire storyline is aura farming, it is a case of WWE doing storytelling inconsistently and relying on aura farming to get through to the next show. It is a tactic they've definitely used for Cody throughout his title reign, where many of the matches that he was in either weren't for the title or were simply there for the sake of being there. And while no wrestling company is immune to that effect, it cannot be a mainstay on your program. And speaking of mainstay, we got to talk about Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is one of, if not WWE's biggest stars. And with that comes the aura of that level of a superstar. Roman Reigns is a top guy, there's no doubt about it. However, him simply being a top guy is what has gotten us through the last 6 to 7 months of him on WWE TV. Even going back as far as Bad Blood, you could see that WWE were simply relying on the idea of Roman Reigns being there to sell pay-per-view tickets, to sell pay-per-view views, to get people interested. And there was nothing inherently wrong with that. However, again, when you make a habit of doing so consistently over the next couple of months, it does point in a very fatal direction as far as your ability to tell stories. We have also seen Jey Uso recently suffer from this. He won the Royal Rumble, proceeded to yeet his way over the next couple of weeks until they finally did an angle that made his match with Gunther mean something when Gunther attacked his brother Jimmy, leaving him bloodied in the middle of the ring while Jey had to watch. Sure, there was a little bit of a personal reason now, but where was all of that in the weeks leading up to it? That wasn't a priority for WWE. And the list goes on and on. Even a triple threat main event level match like CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns has relied heavily on aura. It has relied heavily on nonsensical plot devices over story. That doesn't mean the stuff with Paul Heyman hasn't added a good wrinkle and a good idea of what might happen at the event. However, to say that storyline drove the build to any of the premier matches at WrestleMania this year would be a disservice to the word storyline. WWE is relying way too much on aura. They're relying way too much on simply sending their intellectual property out there in order to get attention, in order to maintain relevancy, in order to keep people engaged. And while it is working, they are as profitable as they have ever been. They are making more money than they have ever made, and they are engaging fans in a way that they haven't before. All of that is true, but you cannot sit there and tell me that the storyline itself week to week is good, because it is fundamentally not, and to say so is disregarding every single thing that has happened on TV over the last couple of months. And in an era where Triple H is in charge, where it was supposed to represent change, where it was supposed to represent a new vision for what WWE could be, it seems like we are getting a lot of the same from when Vince was in charge. Not in that the storylines are changing week to week, not in that the storylines don't necessarily make sense. However, in that sometimes you just send out your top stars and they have a little thing in the ring, and that's the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. And again, in my view, you can only rely on that so much before you draw fans away. But the bigger issue comes with this idea that WWE should just rely on aura or IP. The Undertaker coming out of WrestleMania 40, for example, was an awesome, cool moment. The crowd went crazy, and so did I watching at home. However, when you go back and look at it, don't you wonder for a second what the hell The Undertaker was doing there in the first place? I know I did, but in the end, WWE is a billion-dollar company. TKO has its priorities straight. They want to make money. They want to make as much money as possible. And right now, they are finding it very profitable to not prioritize stories, but instead just send their top stars out there, or a farm, get that IP in front of people's faces, and count that dough. Will it change? I don't know. But hey, I guess we'll see.